Welcome to the Complete Aviation Solutions Deep Dive, number 92. Today we're looking at a few different sources that really paint a picture of what's happening right now in global aviation.
hmm
It seems like a mix, airlines wanting to grow but also hitting some, well, complex hurdles getting the planes they need. So our mission today is to dig into these sources, pull out the really interesting bits, the key moves, the underlying pressure, so you can quickly get up to speed on operations, fleets, network changes.
Absolutely. It's that classic push and pull, isn't it? The
Ugh.
drive to expand versus the realities of, acquiring aircraft. We'll touch on airlines boosting routes, others facing economic headwinds on orders, and even how some are getting creative with financing.
Okay, great. Let's unpack this then. Maybe start with network growth. I saw some major moves from an airline group in Asia.
Yeah, definitely. They've been quite busy. One standout from their main airline is bringing back the nonstop Hong Kong to Rome flight. It's seasonal for now, but still significant.
Okay, Rome. What makes that particular route stand out beyond just being another European city?
Well, it's actually the fourth new passenger destination they've launched just this year in 2025.
Fourth already. Wow.
Yeah. Add that to Hyderabad, Dallas-Fort Worth, and Urumqi earlier in the year. It shows, a real pushback into diverse markets. Confidence is returning.
And that brings the whole group, including their other airlines, pretty close to a big number, doesn't it?
That's right. They're getting close to hitting 100 passenger destinations worldwide. It's a solid sign of recovery and rebuilding.
And it's not just the main airline pushing forward. Their low-cost carrier, HK Express, has been making waves too.
Oh, absolutely. Making waves might be an understatement. HK Express has added a whole list of new routes this year. Sendai, Nha Trang, Ishigaki, Komatsu, Changzhou, Yiwu, really leaning into that regional expansion.
Right. And within that regional push, it looks like there's a specific focus on Korea.
Yes, definitely a highlight in the sources. HK Express just launched new routes into Cheongju and Daegu in Korea.
Yeah.
Started just June 5th and 6th.
Okay, Jeonju and Daegu, how much does that add to their Korean service?
Together, those add 7 weekly round trips. But the really interesting part, with these, HK Express is now the only airline based in the Greater Bay Area flying direct to 5 major Korean cities.
5 cities. That's quite a network. Which ones are covered now?
You've got Seoul, Busan, Jeju, and now Cheongju and Daegu. It gives travelers in that region a huge range of options. All told, they're running up to 47 round-trip flights a week to Korea now. Serious connectivity.
Yeah, that is significant. I also noticed a detail about how they're marketing these new Korean routes. Something about characters.
Ah, yes, a nice little touch. They've teamed up with a character IP called Joguman. Apparently, these characters represent their brand idea of daring to be different. They've got themed merchandise on the first flights, and it'll be available on board and online soon.
Interesting. A fun way to stand out.
Definitely makes the launch more memorable, especially in a market like Korea.
Okay, let's circle back to the mainline carrier's European plans. Beyond Rome, they're adding more this summer.
That's right. Munich and Brussels are also launching. So yeah, really cementing that return to key European points.
And how many flights does that add up to for Europe this summer?
With these additions, they'll be running close to 100 return flights each week to 12 destinations in Europe. Rome joins Milan, which already has daily flights.
And just to round it out, what are the other European cities on their map this summer?
Okay, let's see. Amsterdam, Barcelona, Frankfurt, London Heathrow, Madrid, Manchester, Paris, Zurich, plus the new ones, Rome, Munich, Brussels, and the existing Milan. It's a pretty comprehensive list.
Covers the main hubs and the aircraft for that new Hong Kong-Rome flight.
They're putting the Airbus A350-900 on it.
Ah, okay. One of their newer, more efficient wide bodies.
Exactly. Using it on a seasonal route like Rome suggests they expect decent demand, or, they want to showcase their best product as they rebuild. Good fuel efficiency helps on those long legs, too.
Makes sense. And the seat configuration on that A350?
It's set up with 38 flatbeds in business, 28 seats in premium economy, and 214 in economy. So a standard long-haul layout catering to different budgets.
Got it. And for anyone planning a trip, the schedule for that seasonal Rome flight, June 5th to October 25th.
Right. Flight CX-293 leaves Hong Kong at midnight, arrives Rome 7:35 a.m. local. That runs Monday, Thursday, Saturday. Then the return, CX-292, leaves Rome at 1:00 p.m., gets back to Hong Kong at 6:30 the next morning. Same days, Monday, Thursday, Saturday. Designed for connections, really.
Okay, so that's one side of the core of a pretty aggressive expansion, especially connecting Asia and Europe. But like you said, adding routes needs planes, and getting planes.
Yeah.
Well, that brings us to some challenges, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
Let's shift gears a bit and look at the hurdles. Spirit Airlines in the U.S., for instance, has flagged a pretty serious potential issue.
Right, I saw that. They're warning about how ongoing U.S. tariffs could affect their Airbus orders.
Exactly. Spirit's saying these existing tariffs could hit a big chunk of their future fleet plan specifically. Orders for 52 Airbus jets meant for delivery between now and 2031.
52 planes. Wow, that's substantial. What types are involved?
It breaks down into 23 A320-200Ns and 29 of the A321-200NXs, basically the core aircraft for their network.
And how do these tariffs actually work? How does a trade policy make it harder to get a plane?
Well, the way Spirit explains it, the tariffs act like an import tax levied by the U.S. government, so it directly increases the cost of bringing those new Airbus planes into the U.S., and crucially, it also bumps up the cost of imported Airbus parts they need just to maintain their current fleet. So it hits them twice.
And they weren't exactly subtle about the potential impact, were they?
No, not at all. They use the phrase material adverse effect on their business, financial condition, operations. That's strong language. It tells you they see this as a really serious threat.
So if these costs bite hard, what might Spirit actually do?
They've mentioned possibly trying to postpone deliveries or maybe even cancel some of the aircraft they have on order. They also suggested they might just buy fewer planes in the future than they'd planned. It could force them to scale back their growth ambitions.
It's worth remembering, too, that they have other ways of getting planes, right? Not just direct buys.
That's a good point, yes. Besides these direct orders from Airbus, Spirit also has deals for 39 other A320neo family jets financed through direct leases. Those deliveries are spread from 2025 to 2028, so they do mix their strategies.
And are any of the potentially affected deliveries coming up soon?
Yeah, 4 of the planes in that bigger batch of over 90 due through 2031 are actually scheduled to arrive sometime this year, 2025. So the tariff issue could start having an impact quite quickly.
And all this is happening as Spirit, recently came out of Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Adding potential tariff costs on top must be stressful.
Extremely challenging. It just highlights how vulnerable airlines can be to these big external economic factors,
Mm.
especially when they're already navigating financial recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And importantly, this isn't just a Spirit issue.
Right. Other U.S. airlines have mentioned the tariff situation, too.
Yes. Delta and American Airlines have also publicly noted the potential impact, saying they wouldn't pay extra cash for new planes because of it. It's clearly a sector-wide concern in the U.S., stemming directly from trade policy.
Fascinating and kind of worrying how that high-level policy trickles down so directly. So, okay, we have expansion on one side, these economic pressures potentially stalling fleet growth on the other. What about different approaches to getting aircraft, like leasing?
Well, that brings us neatly to our next example. If we look at Aviance Airlines in Colombia, the sources show they're using leasing quite strategically for their fleet growth.
Ah, Avianca, what's the latest there?
They're set to dry lease 9 additional A320-200Ns.
Okay, 9 more NEOs, and who's the leasing company involved?
It's BOC Aviation.
And you said dry lease. Just remind us quickly what that means.
Good point. Yeah, dry lease basically means BOC Aviation provides just the aircraft. Avianca handles everything else, the crew, the maintenance, insurance, all that operational stuff.
Got it. Just the metal. Are these planes coming from BOC's existing fleet?
No, and that's an interesting detail. BOC Aviation actually made a deal with Airbus to buy these 9 jets, brand new from the factory, specifically to lease them to Avianca. It's not an off-the-shelf arrangement.
Ah, okay. So a tailored deal. And the engines on these leased NEOs.
They'll have the CFM International LEP-1A engines. The standard new-gen efficient option for the A320neo family, good for costs and emissions.
Right. And when are these 9 expected to show up?
Delivery is planned for 2027. But here's where it gets really interesting, putting this lease in context. Avianca isn't just leasing. They're also waiting on direct deliveries of 78 A320-200Ns they ordered straight from Airbus as part of their main fleet renewal.
78 direct orders plus these 9 leased ones. So they're doing both.
Exactly. It shows they're using multiple tools. Buying direct gives them ownership, maybe better long-term economics. Leasing, like this deal, can offer flexibility, maybe fill delivery gaps or manage capital differently. It's a combined strategy.
That makes a lot of sense. Adds flexibility. What's the current A320neo count across the whole Avianca group right now?
Okay, looking group-wide. Avianca in Colombia has 24. Then the subsidiary in Ecuador has 5, and the one in El Salvador has 12. So these new 9 for the main Colombian airline are a pretty significant boost.
And just remind us, what other planes does the main Avianca airline fly besides the NEOs?
Sure. Excluding the subsidiaries, the core Avianca fleet also has 6 older A319s, 60 of the previous generation A320-200s, and then 16 Boeing 787-8s for their long-haul flying.
Yeah.
The NEOs are clearly key to updating that narrow-body fleet.
Right. And this deal with BOC Aviation, is that an ongoing relationship or something new?
The sources indicate it's actually a new relationship. Avianca Group doesn't currently lease any planes from BOC Aviation, so they're bringing in a new financial partner specifically for this deal.
That is interesting. Shows they're actively looking at different partners and options, not just sticking to one way of doing things.
Yeah, it's a constant evaluation for airlines: buy, lease, which lesser, dry lease, wet lease,
Yeah.
finding the right mix for their specific situation.
Absolutely. It's a complex puzzle indeed. Okay, let's try and tie this all together, though. We've covered quite a bit today from these sources. We saw airlines like Cathay Pacific and HK Express really pushing network expansion, adding key routes in Asia and Europe, showing that growth appetite.
hmm Then we shifted to the U.S. with Spirit, highlighting how external pressures, like those trade tariffs, can pose a real threat to carefully laid aircraft order plans.
Right. A stark contrast. And finally, we looked at Avianca using a mix of strategies, big direct orders, and strategic leasing through a new partner to manage its fleet modernization.
Exactly. Taken together, these examples really illustrate that dynamic. Airlines are definitely ambitious, wanting to grow and modernize, but things like trade policy, financing options, even manufacturer delivery schedules, they all heavily influence whether and how those ambitions actually happen. It's not straightforward.
And that's the key thing for you listening, isn't it? Understanding these different forces. The market pull, the economic headwinds, the financial engineering almost gives you a much richer sense of what's really driving the industry. It goes way beyond just seeing which flights are available. It's about how airlines get the planes to fly them.
Precisely. So, maybe a final thought to leave you with.
Yeah.
Considering these different stories, the aggressive expansion, the tariff troubles, the leasing tactics, how do you think these varied approaches might shape the competitive landscape between airlines and maybe even the choices you have as a traveler over the next few years? Is certainly a space to watch.